Hello everybody, welcome back to Sermons from the Cave. We're here on a gorgeous day, summer day here in Southern California, and just wanted to thank everybody at Sunrise Community Church in Santee for letting me come and preach. And if some of you would like to see that sermon, and go down there and stop these guys with the guns. But if you'd like to see those sermons, you really need to watch all three parts. We had to cut it up into three parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. If you just watch Part 1, it's not going to make any sense. You really need to watch all three parts in the conclusion. So we're back in the book of Genesis chapter 14. Where we left off before was when Abraham and Lot parted company because they had huge families. In fact, Abraham's just the men, armed men, he had 318 armed men that were born in his house. So he had a huge family and shepherds and that would would take care of his livestock business and such. And Lot, we left off where Lot and Abram parted company, and Abraham gave Lot first choice. So he looked down into this valley that was all well watered, and there was a lot of greenery, and he's thinking, hey, I'm going to take that, Abraham. That looks pretty good. But what happened was, as he started camping, he was camping towards Jericho, and then finally towards Sodom, and he started camping closer to Sodom, and the door of his tent was facing Sodom. And you can remember when they used to camp around the tabernacle, Moses had everybody had their tents, the tent door facing the tabernacle so they could see the Shekinah glory of God. They would always have their focus, their attention on God, and always be remembering what God has done for them. It's important. So after Abraham and Lot split up, four kings from the north come down to make war with the king of Sodom, and because these five kings from the south stopped, basically, I believe they stopped paying tribute to these other kings in the form of taxes or tribute, and so they rebelled, and the kings from these four kings from the north came down, attacked these five kings, and they actually won. And Lot, when they sacked Sodom, Lot and his whole family was taken captive, and that would have been all his home, the workers around his home. I hate to call them slaves, but just all the workers that were in his home and his family members and the business that he had, because he had livestock also. So the spoils of war were taken. Everything that Lot owned, and even himself, they were taken into captivity by these four kings from the north. But somebody escaped. One of the captives escaped the captivity, and he ran away, and he just happened to go up and find Abraham up in the mountains, and tell him, hey, look at this is what happened. There was a terrible war, and Lot's been taken captive, and we help. We need you. He's your nephew, and I'm sure it didn't take much, according to the scriptures. It didn't take much for Abraham just to leave his household, his sheep, his wife, and all his industry there, and just go after Lot. And it says in Genesis 14 that let's see here, it says, now Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive. He armed 318 trained servants. Now we know that he's saying brother, but he means just that in kind of a brotherly sense, a family sense. It really was his nephew. And he says this, that Abraham armed 318 trained servants. There you go. That's the word I was looking for, servants, who were born in his own house. So these were people that over the generations had been born in his own house. So Abraham was a very wealthy businessman. He had a lot of cattle and sheep and such. And he was able to take 318 men that were trained to fight and go after these four kings from the north and to try to rescue Lot and his family. And he divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servants attacked them and pursued them. So it was that he brought back all the goods, and he brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And it says that the king of Sodom went out to meet him in this valley, in the king's valley, and to congratulate him. Hey, well done, way to go. And then we come to verse 18 of chapter 14, and this is where it gets really interesting. Listen to this. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram, the God of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tithe of all. Abraham gave the king a tithe. So it's just a really interesting fellow, this king, Melchizedek, and that he was a priest of God Most High. First of all, that he was a priest. He blessed Abram, and he was the king of Salem. Now, Salem would have been Jerusalem before it was called Jerusalem. It was an older form of that name, Salem, and it would have been in the same area. So this guy was here we have this guy who there's no mention of a father, of a mother, and he's able to bless Abram. He's able to bring out these elements of bread and wine, and then Abraham gives him a tenth, a tithe. So that's interesting. Now we don't hear of this mysterious kingly figure for 1,000 years until the psalmist David writes this in Psalm 110, verse 4. It says, the Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. Now, this is speaking of the future Messiah, that he will be a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. Now, not yet. We're talking about Abram. They haven't, all the Abram's children, Abraham's son Ishmael and Isaac haven't been born yet. And you'd have to even go down further than that to Jacob, and then the 12 sons of Jacob, and finally, Joseph, the youngest son, goes down to Egypt, is actually taken captive and goes down into Egypt, and then we have the nation of Israel being formed during that 400-year period while they were in slavery, in bondage in Egypt. But it's just interesting that and then after that, that's when the law was given, after the Exodus, and Moses was given the law on Mount Sinai, that the whole Levitical priesthood was started. Now you got to remember, the Levitical priesthood was set up by God to atone for the Hebrew people, for the Israelites, that a lamb would be shed. Actually, two of them. One was a scapegoat, and one was shed, atone for their atonement, and that was to cover. Atonement means to cover. That's what Adam and Eve tried to do with the fig leaves when they sewed fig leaves together. But the atonement, the animal sacrifice, was only good for 1 calendar year. They had to repeat this ceremony every year. But this is saying that according to the order of Melchizedek, so this priest will be a priest forever. And then in the book of Hebrews, now the book of Hebrews is really the key that unlocks the Old Testament. If you're reading through the Old Testament and you don't understand it, you have to read the book of Hebrews, and especially chapter 7. And it says this: For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from his slaughter of kings and blessed him, to whom Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being translated King of Righteousness, and then also King of Salem, meaning King of Peace, without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God, remains a priest continually. And see, what we think who Melchizedek was is called in seminary a theophany, or more specifically a Christophany. And that's an appearance, a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus Christ, obviously before he was born in a manger in Bethlehem and all that. But back in the Old Testament, Jesus would appear in the form that he chose, Joshua saw him. He appeared to Abram, and now he's appearing as this King Melchizedek. And what's interesting is that Jesus will be a king and a priest. The Levitical priesthood, they were not considered kings. They were not part of the kingly line. And their sacrifices were only good. They were only good as long as God gave them the power and the anointing to perform that sacrifice that would cover their people for only one calendar year, 12 months. But here comes Melchizedek along that David, the psalmist, is saying, listen, when the Messiah comes, he's going to be a priest forever after the order according to Melchizedek. So it's really some cool stuff. But really, it's really Jesus who said in John 8:56 that listen to what Jesus says himself, because here we have the Lord himself verifying all this whole passage. Jesus said in John chapter 8 verse 56 that Abraham rejoiced to see his day and saw it. That meaning that Abraham rejoiced to see the Messiah, and we know that he saw Melchizedek. So it's just a really interesting verse. Well, listen, I've gone way over. I want to welcome you all back to Sermons from the Cave, and I hope that you invite your friends and family, that you'll cut and paste the link out of your browser and send it on. Send it to your church group, send it to other people, and that we can generate interest. It's a place to come. The simplicity of our cave is just a nice place to come, a simplistic place to come that we can just focus on God's Word, what He's really saying to the world, to you and to me. Shalom, Mishpachah.